So, had a request. Somebody wanted to see how I do my ribs. And when you start your fire off, basically just like you would normally, building a little pyramid, log cabin style there. And then I've got one of my candle fire starters in there, and I left. If you've seen my used candle fire starters, I can usually get this in one match, but we'll see. If I get a good breeze, it'll blow it out, of course. So once my little fire starter is going good, what I like to do is take a solid log like this and put it right on top. It is so big and thick that it will not catch fire. With the fire that's underneath there, what it'll do, it'll just start smoking. And you can see the one from last night. It just burns the center of it out and it just smokes constantly. And that one is actually still smoking. But once that gets going good, then you can put your meat on. And then as far as meat and seasonings go, I'm doing ribs today. Those are store-bought candles. It's not beeswax, so I don't want that flavor in my meat. So I'll make sure that that's burned off completely. And the log is going good at a smolder. And I'll put my ribs on there for about 6 hours. And I'm not going to tell you what seasonings are the best, what, do this, do that. I mean, this is just the way I do it. So take your ribs, use your favorite seasonings, but this is the way to do it slow. And you'll have very little heat. I don't like my ribs to smoke more than 100 degrees because I'll turn up the heat after I wrap them up. I let them smoke for 6 hours. I wrap them in a good heavy-duty tin foil, and then I finish them off until they just pull off the bone. Some people like theirs to be a little bit tighter. I like to be able to pull the bone right out of them, but it's just personal preference. And I'll show how I lay them out on the grill. And it's nothing special, no big fancy this or that. It's just a regular old Walmart grill. It's got a burn box on one side, and that's where I keep my fire. And as you can see, it's starting to smoke now, but I want that waxy flavor to burn off of it. As you can see right now, we got some flames going. When those flames go out completely, we'll close everything up, then we'll be ready to put the ribs on. And what you can do now while you're waiting on that, you can go ahead and go and rub down your ribs. I don't even rub mine, I just sprinkle my seasonings on top. I don't even bother to pat it down because it's going to be here for 6 hours. It's going to soak in. Don't worry about that. And if you smoke yours as long as I do, when you cut it, it's going to look pink and not look like it's done. Don't worry about it. That is the smoke colors the meat as it soaks in. So if it's completely pink, you did a good job smoking your meat. And see, I've still got some flames on the back side. The camera may not be picking it up. But actually, I'll just bring the ribs out here and show you how I season mine. Alright, just a regular old bacon sheet, and then I've got a kind of a garlic herb, and then a little bit of cayenne pepper in there to give it a little bit of bite, not too much. You don't want your seasonings to overpower the flavor of the smoke and the meat. And these are just pork baby back ribs. It's not the St. Louis style. St. Louis style are a little wider. And then I give them a very generous shake on these seasonings, almost covering up the meat completely. And you notice I did the meat side first because I go meat side down. And then I flip them about halfway through. Let me get my grates back over here where they're supposed to be. And if you want to, you can hit your grates with a little bit of olive oil. Mine have never stuck because, like I said, I don't use very much heat. But I like a little olive oil flavor on there. And I'm just using one of the cheap olive oil spray cans. Coat it real good. And you know, my grill's kind of small, so I got to put them on caddy corner. But I still got some flame going, so I got to wait for that to burn out. But that's how I season my meat, and then you just set them on there, and you know, go catch a TV show or a movie. I'd check them about every 30 minutes, just to make sure that your log that you've put in there is still smoking very well. I mean, the more smoke, the merrier. You're not going to hurt it. It's not going to dry it out. Because once you wrap it, after the 6 hours, I finish mine off in the oven. And if you've got an electric oven, it will go all the way down to 170. Normally, I start this at 6 o'clock at night. And I usually go to bed about midnight. But if you can get them on at 5 and, you know, whenever. But let it smoke for about 6 hours and then wrap them up really well. Throw them in the oven on 170. Let it run all night. And they'll be ready to go in the morning. And you can leave them in there a little longer. I've left them in the oven for, I don't know, not quite 12 hours. And it didn't hurt them. The longer you leave them in there, the softer they get. Still got just a little bit of flame, but I don't think it's enough to worry about actually cooking the meat. You're not trying to cook it, you're just trying to smoke it. And that's just a little superficial flame. I think we'll be alright. Let's get up and see how much smoke is coming out of this thing. I don't know if you can pick it up real well there. And you can still see the flame down in there, so I won't put them on there. I won't close it. I'll go ahead and get them situated on the grill like I want them, and then season the backside. But make sure they completely close, and make sure you got a gap between them where they're not touching, so smoke can get all the way around them. You want your smoke to just circulate around it. So I think it'd be good there. Can't operate the camera real well now that I got all this juice all over my hands. And I'll have to, now this being pork, yes, you gotta go back in and kind of disinfect your bottles. For pork will give you trichinosis if it's not cooked properly, and that's why I said during the smoking process, that's actually preserving the meat like you would do if you were making jerky. Like I said, I make my own seasoning out of a couple of different things. Too bad we don't have smell-o-vision. And the backside doesn't need to have as much because it's got that that layer of skin that keeps everything situated the way it's supposed to be inside our little piggy. Very little flame going now. got me a handy little temperature gauge. If it starts getting too hot in there, I'll come out here and open it up and let some of that heat out, and then adjust my airflow on the other end. But yeah, 100 degrees, 110 would be great, because like I said, the smoke is going to keep any insects away from it. It's going to purify the meat, or preserve the meat, not purify it. That's just cooking. And everybody seems to like them, and y'all can thank Jim for asking for the request for me to video it. He's had the ribs, so he said, dude, just shoot a video. I want to know how you did that. Well, there it is. Now, something I didn't mention before, but since I'm in the middle of it, what I should have told you guys before you put them in the oven, once you flip your ribs, once you're halfway, 3 hours, I take a half a stick of butter for one rack of ribs. Since I have 2 on the grill, I take a whole stick of butter. I cover the top of it with my seasonings, and I just shake it on the top if some falls off, but that's just kind of how I measure it. And then I just let that slowly melt down. You don't want to boil it or burn it, just let it slowly melt down, kind of like clarified butter if you were eating lobster. And then I'll brush that on and let it smoke the next 3 hours, and then that's when I'll take it to the oven. But that butter just adds another kind of nice flavor to it to go along with the smoke. Alright, I got my butter rendered down, and I flipped the ribs. Not only does this add flavor, it keeps your meat from drying out. And don't be stingy. I mean, give it a bath. And that's all there is to it. And there's just a little bit left over. And you can put that on right before, once you get ready to wrap up with tinfoil. Just pour that on both of them, spread it out evenly, and you should be good to go. Well, let's see how they turned out. Yep, still got a lot of juice in there. Ooh, still a little warm. Yeah, that is the butter knife. Yeah, those are beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, low and slow. That's all you got to remember. Low and slow. You probably don't even need that knife. Yeah, I'm just pulling the bones out now. You can pick it up and eat it with your fingers, or you can just pull the bone out. Get you a fork, then you don't get all greasy and messy. How about that?